Hey, now, what's going on? What's going on? This is Mr. Green, better yet known as the Green Okie, bringing you another video breakdown. And my review of the video today is actually something kind of personal to my heart. I want to go ahead and talk about why you should watch Korean movies. So, bringing up, the kimchi and, grocery stores and the hair salons, all that stuff that you're kind of used to seeing. But today, I'm just going to give you my take on why you should actually go ahead and watch Korean movies. So I used to be very ignorant when it came to the differences in Oriental ethnicities in which I didn't know their actual ethnicity. So what that was, that meant that every Asian person that I saw was Chinese by default. And if I had thought about it hard enough, I would maybe say Vietnamese. But, I think like other Okies like me, if we don't know what you are, we calling you Chinese. But once you put a little bit more thought into it and whatnot, there's a vast diversity of different Asians and Oriental peoples. So I think Korean people, for the most part, have been called the stepchild in a lot of respects, as in their past, ethnic group wasn't as popular or known as Japanese, the Vietnamese, and of course Chinese people. So for Korean people to be dominating Netflix with 6 out of 10 consumers or something like that they consume some type of Korean content is utterly amazing. Whereas I didn't have Korean as a first option for my entertainment and viewing experiences, now Korean binge watching is my number one viewing option on most days. I wanted to think about why I watch Korean movies, and I know what you're thinking. Maybe you have had a Korean girlfriend in the past. And this is true, but to be honest, I didn't even watch Korean movies like that or anything like that. I think it was her watching June Media and all those things. But that's another video. To put it plainly, the reason why I like to watch Korean movies is because I become an avatar when I watch Korean movies. And, anyone who has seen that movie, Avatar, with the likes of Jake Sully, knows what I'm talking about. This is the reason why I love Korean movies. Day to day, as a foundational Black American, I'm constantly thinking about race and politics. So when you watch movies like Boys in the Hood or Don't Be a Menace to Society, it puts your mindset into this state of being that this is who you are, and you are most likely not going to change your situation due to the color of your skin. Now, this is not really one of them, identity politics videos. This is just me saying, as a foundational Black American, that watching these type of Black cinematic experiences makes you feel inherently oppressed and unruly. To add injury to insult, even movies just as the Michael B. Jordan movie called Just Mercy shows why it was a white person's or the colonizer's fault, given a different type of circumstance regarding racial relations in America. These type of movies show how the color of your skin puts you in a considerable disadvantage if you are battling the dominant white society. Trying to correct a racial inequality seems like a unicorn in a room full of Pegasus. It won't happen, right? Even if you think about recent events like Mississippi torture of two black men, and then as an American, you are inherently forced to watch through a lens of, at the very least, if not racism, ethnocentricity, and can I say it, bigotry. It is very hard to watch a movie with only a white cast because we, as black people, asked the question. So you mean to tell me there weren't any black people during this time period? None. The next thing that follows is, if there weren't any black people necessary for that film, then it's almost as if they purposely left us out of the movie, which by then it somewhat feels racist to black people. Okay, now I want to juxtapose this to Korean movies, right? So no matter which side I choose when watching these movies, I'm always a Korean person at the end of the day, which is why I use the Avatar reference. This aspect of always being Korean is a fresh breath of air that allows you to enjoy the movie objectively without thinking, well, what if this was in a white person's, or what if that was a black person, or that type of thing. And the reason I'm only using them two, because those two are like the polar opposites in American society. If it's not black, then you're white. Of course, that's changing nowadays, but everybody else is just in between, basically. So, but that's another video. So, when you watch Korean movies, you can just accept the themes that each movie is trying to convey from a Korean perspective rather than identity politics. I really commend Korean people for their rise to sitcom because of this. Korean people have broken the Hollywood monopoly on what we as Americans deem as popular. And I think that Korean people as a whole have gotten a whole lot of soft power in the world when it comes to Hallyu and just Korean dramas in general. It's as if, for example, before this uprise or this sudden uptick in Korean movies, you really just only kind of watched Asian movies in general if it was the type of Jackie Chan, martial arts, that type of thing. You really did not watch, Asian movies for like maybe drama or things of this nature. You really just want to see some Bruce Lee and some Jackie Chan, and that was pretty much what we as Americans were allowing Asian people to kind of dominate in far as cinema. But now with Korean dramas and K-pop being such a popular thing, this has really thrusted the Korean culture not only into the American focal point, but also worldwide, So I just want to kind of give my list and tell you why you should, watch Korean movies. And I'm going to do that, and I'm going to tell you about some movies that you can start with in order to kind of get you up to speed, or somewhat establish a niche that you want to watch. So here goes the first one. And this is in no particular type of order. So I Saw the Devil. So this is a vengeance thriller for the books. As we see our classic headmaster from the beloved Squid Games take down Cha Min-sik. And Cha Min-sik is from Old Boy. And speaking of Old Boy is my favorite Korean movie of all time. Bar or hold on, Parasite. But anyway, Old Boy takes a ride with Cha Min-sik as he tracks down the person who seeped his life away, being locked in a room for 20 plus years. I think that's the number, but it was a long time to make anybody go mad. So, Old Boy, give that a shout. Give that a watch. Another series I recommend is on Netflix called The Glory. And this one kind of deals with childhood trauma. And it's basically goes into a heroine of sorts where she is bullied as a youngster, and then she gets revenge later on, as she is actually the teacher of her bully's children. So it's a really, really great story if you got time to watch the series. My next series that I recommend, and this one is also on Netflix, is called Vincenzo. For those of you that may have grown up without, orphaned, or abandoned, then this series is one that you may be able to connect with. You take a ride with Vincenzo, the Korean Italian mob boss who is covertly trying to recover his loot some odd years later after a building was built over his fortune. And this one is kind of like a funny, serious type of thriller. It's funny whenever it needs to be, but whenever you want it to get serious, it gets serious. So like me, I like the thriller, horror, action, and the comedy in there was like a nice compliment to top it off. So and it's really, really inspiring as far as what he did for those people who were living there. So for my next one, it is called Mother. So if it is one thing that director Bong Joon-ho knows how to do well, it is suspense, as he uses subtle clues to build a narrative that encapsulates you throughout the film. In Mother, he does just that, as we see the lengths of a mother will go to fight for the innocence of her autistic son. So check out Mother. And this next one is one that pretty much needs no introduction. It is the Squid Games. As a matter of fact, myself, with mounting student loan payments and money that I just can't pay back, I may just find myself in a Squid Game someday. So don't be surprised if you see somebody slapping me in the face. So there you go. Okay, the next one I recommend, and this one has won an Academy Award, if I'm not mistaken, and Bong Joon is the one who also helmed this film. So Parasite is a story of basically a poor family living in a basement, and this family has dreams of getting out. Now, what makes this family so different is that they are all charlatans. However, even though they're all charlatans, they are very cohesive and supportive of each other. And by the end of the movie, it'll kind of have you questioning your own life and whether or not if you're a parasite to somebody in some way, form, or fashion, and also whether how close your family is to you, and disregarding the daily matters of your own life. This movie Parasite really lays out a nice contrast between how rich people think and how poor people think, or how the have-nots think and how the haves think. This movie is one of my all-time favorite movies. It is really up there with Old Boy, like I was saying previously, and anybody who loves Korean movies, horror, this movie, it just ticked all boxes. And even though it is in another language, the subtitles are ever so clear, and everyone's acting in it is superb. So the subtitles only there for really like guardrails, just to keep you on track. Everything else is pretty clear. So for my next movie, The Wailing. So fear is a strange emotion. It's almost as strong as love, but in the wrong hands can be deadlier than sweet revenge, right? This is the case of The Wailing, as fear and paranoia riddle this movie's protagonist, Kwak Do-won, as he goes on a wild goose chase of whodunit, and oh yeah, it doesn't help that the accused is the Japanese. So this movie, just to give you a little bit of background and history, it was basically type of can I say Shaoism, Taoism that's kind of started in Korea, then it went to Japan, and then basically it came back to Korea. So basically you just look up the history of Taoism and like Buddhist culture, those type of things. This is kind of what this movie is kind of centering around. It's kind of like shamanism and everything like that. So the next movie I want to recommend is Strangers from Hell. So Strangers from Hell strikes me as one of those "Are You Afraid of the Dark" type of K-dramas, with this eerie presence of not being quite too sure of your next door neighbor. This series plays on your fears of the psychopath next door, and I must say, as a horror enthusiast, this movie it really caught my attention from beginning to end, because anybody who's kind of lived maybe in Korea or Japan, they know they kind of, if you living in one of them hostels or one of them type of shared apartment spaces, then you'll know exactly where this movie is coming from. You basically have to get along with everybody in that apartment building, as everybody's kind of on the same accord. So Strangers from Hell, that's one I definitely recommend. And my last movie that I want to recommend is actually the series Sweet Home, and a little bit of history on Sweet Home. Anybody who knows Resident Evil knows that it has its roots in I think George Romero's The Night of the Living Dead, but it also has its roots in like another, I think, Famicom game called Sweet Home. So I guess what people came up with the idea of is, hey, let's just go back to where actually Resident Evil started, which is the Sweet Home game. So, like I said, if you love the Resident Evil movies, then you are going to love this series, as strangers are trapped inside of an apartment complex, while each of them is on the brink of turning into the very monsters they fear most themselves. So that's my analysis, or my thoughts on which Korean movie cinematic experiences you should watch first if you want to kind of take on new hobby as far as watching Korean movies and Hallyu series. Thank you.